Hello everyone, and welcome back to another reading vlog. Last week I left off having read about a third of the book Lady Tremaine by Rachel Hochhauser. This is a Cinderella retelling focusing on the perspective of the stepmother, Lady Tremaine, and exploring the experiences of women and motherhood. So far, it is very good, and in order to finish reading this on time for me to submit it for the magical readathon and my Aurelium classes in order to graduate the spring semester, I need to finish this in the next 2 days, and then I get to start reading for Escape the Readathon, which I am also extremely excited for. But I don't know what I'm going to be reading for that as of right now, since I don't know what prompt my team will have first. So I'm just going to be focusing on finishing up this for the time being. It is Thursday evening, and I have just finished reading Lady Tremaine by Rachel Hochhauser. I think that this book has a very interesting take on the tale of Cinderella and the various politics that go on behind the scenes when it comes to things like royal balls and royal marriages, and the character growth that all of the women of the Tremaine household experience throughout the book is beautiful and shows how no matter what kind of woman you are, no matter what end goal you ultimately want with your life, you need to recognize that the most important aspect of reaching that is to have autonomy and agency and be willing and able to think for yourself, not simply listen to a man. That being said, while I enjoyed this book, I did feel at some points as though the pacing was a little bit off. The beginning felt a little bit stretched out in order to give us some exposition on Lady Tremaine and her backstory. And then once we reached the ball, everything felt a bit accelerated from that point on. So the pacing did feel a little bit off, but I can understand why we spent so much time before the ball and establishing the characters. It just seemed a little weird to me when I was reading how different the pacing felt to me between the first act and the second act. And I don't quite know how to phrase it or really put my finger on it, but something felt missing from this book, and I couldn't tell you what it was. If I was hoping to expand a little bit more on Lady Tremaine's relationship with Cinderella, or if there was, I don't know. There was just something that I felt the story lacked to give it that last push it needed for me. So I do have to rate this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I did greatly enjoy it, and I would recommend it. It just didn't feel quite right for it to be a top tier favorite of mine. Now, I'm not going to be starting to read anything tonight because tomorrow is May 1st, which means that tomorrow is the start of Escape the Readathon. It is now Friday morning, which means that it is officially the start of May. And with the start of May means that Escape the Readathon has started. And I need to escape the Bowser 4 space station and not experience whatever the aliens have planned for the remaining teams. My team is starting off with the prompt, "A book you have borrowed." For this prompt, I am going to be listening to an audiobook off of Spotify, and that audiobook is It Sleeps Below by William F. Gray. I have a couple of chores to do today, which is why I picked an audiobook, because I can listen to an audiobook while I go about everything that I need to do. Now, It Sleeps Below by William F. Gray is a cosmic horror, and that's about all that I really know about it. It just seems like it will really fit the vibes of this year's Escape the Readathon. So I am going to begin listening to that as I go about my day. It is now Friday evening, and I finished It Sleeps Below by William F. Gray a couple of hours ago, but I still had stuff that I needed to get done by the time I finished it, so you're getting my thoughts and feelings about it now instead of right when I finished it, which is what I normally try to do. So, It Sleeps Below was not entirely what I was expecting it to be. I thought, based off of the cover, which I will put probably hear, that it was going to be space themed, which also was based off of my understanding of cosmic horror, which I was incorrect about. But I thought that it was going to be space themed, and it is not space themed. It is in fact water themed. But so I thought that it would be the perfect opening for Escape the Readathon, and it was still enjoyable. It's just funny to me that I was extremely wrong about what it was gonna be about. But you cannot look at that cover and tell me with complete honesty that you also wouldn't think that there was space involved, okay? As for the book itself, it was a very fun read. I did enjoy Sam and some of her inner dialogue, but there were certain things about the plot that, like, didn't quite line up or fit entirely, in my opinion, especially a lot of the things surrounding Sam's girlfriend, Ellie. Some of the things that we learn later on just make the timeline and the specifics of things feel confusing to me. Maybe it's a me problem. But aside from that, I think another thing was I didn't hate Sam, but I also didn't feel overly attached to Sam, you know? Like, I enjoy having a protagonist that I get attached to, and Sam just didn't quite hit the I am genuinely interested in this character's well-being and life. Overall, it was very fun to read this book, and for people who are looking for kind of like an introduction to cosmic horror as a genre and stuff, I would recommend this book. It just wasn't as good compared to some of the other things that I've been reading lately. Granted, it's in a different genre, so maybe that isn't entirely a fair perspective to a fair comparison to give, but I am going to be giving It Sleeps Below by William F. Gray 3 out of 5 stars. It was good, but it wasn't great for me. That is my biggest disclaimer about every single review that I give on this channel. This is what the book is for me. The next book that I am going to be reading is a romance book that is part of a series that I heard a lot about maybe like a couple of months ago. Now it's more so died down. I'm not hearing as much about it, but I know it was very popular a while back, especially within sports romance reading. It's not the series that you think it is. I have plans to read that series in the future, but it's not Game Changers quite yet. And that is the Boys of Tommen series. I'm going to be reading Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I don't know yet what this will be applied to in terms of Escape the Readathon, just because this is a 600 plus page book, and I don't know if we're still going to be trying to get into the room by the point that I finish it, probably not, or if we will have reached the task prompt stage and I will be submitting page numbers to get us through the room. But we will see, and in the meantime, I guess I will find out what all the hype surrounding the Boys of Tommen is about. It is now Tuesday morning. I think the last time I updated you guys was on Friday, so it's been a couple days. Sorry about that. I've been busy studying for my finals. I only have one more of those, which is tomorrow, so then I will be done with the school year until the fall, and I will be able to dedicate all of my time to reading like I want to. But because I have been busy studying and also moving out of my dorm, I haven't had too much time to read. So my update for you guys is that I am a third of the way through Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. So far, the story is very good. My notes so far for Binding 13. Number one, I do think that both Shannon and Johnny are both very interesting POV characters. I enjoy both of their backstories and the kind of differing emotional dilemmas that they bring to the table. I also think they're both very funny, and they have some great one-liners and jokes in their internal monologues. That being said, that is something that I worry about in the longer term of the series, because I know that there are quite a few couples that the series focuses on. So I'll be interested in if, as I read the series, if the characters will start to feel very same voicey to me. Point two, this is a bit of a slow burn romance, and I have conflicting feelings about it. On the one hand, I really do like how the slower pace of Shannon and Johnny's relationship developing kind of helps keep the passage of time in the novel, and it does feel very true to how actual high school crushes and relationships go, of these are things that develop over a longer period of time. So I do like it in that sense, but in the other sense, for how much of this book I've read, which is a little over 200 pages, it feels like we should have something more, but at the same time, I'm reading it in an ebook, and so there isn't quite that same feeling of progression as when you have a physical copy of the book. I wonder if I would feel differently if I had a physical copy, to like be able to see like, okay, we haven't gotten that far into their relationship, but also I still have 400 pages left, so that makes sense. So it's a little bit of like conflicted feelings, but for the most part, I view it in a positive light of I enjoy how it showcases the progression of time. Those are the two main things that I have thoughts and opinions of at the moment, a third of the way through. So that is what I have. Now, in terms of Escape the Readathon, my team has progressed to the task inside of the research lab, and so we are submitting books for page count in order to complete the task. So I have submitted the pages of Binding 13 that I have read toward that goal. And the next thing that I'm going to bring up is that I am going to be putting a pause on my reading of Binding 13, not for very long. I will be picking it up again in probably sometime late next week. And that is because I have recently been approved on NetGalley to read 2 arcs, and I want to make those my priority to read and give feedback on as an arc reader. So I am going to be reading those in the upcoming days, and I'm going to be starting the first arc today, and I haven't checked how long it is, but I think I might even be able to finish it today if I am lucky. And so the book that I'm going to be reading for the rest of the vlog, which I guess is really just the rest of today, is An Accident of Dragons by Cheri Radke. I do believe that the physical copy of this book is out already, but I am an ARC reader for the audiobook version of An Accident of Dragons, and that I believe is coming out in the next 2 or 3 days, I think. So it is my top priority to finish this, if not today, then tomorrow. It is now Tuesday night. It's around 9 o'clock. And I have finished reading An Accident of Dragons by Cheri Radke. According to the audiobook, I pronounced it wrong in the last clip, so Cheri Radke. This book was very fun. I really enjoyed the overall premise. I really enjoyed Teddy as a narrator and as a protagonist. I think this book offers a really cool concept and a type of protagonist we don't really see very often in fiction, which is an older adult who you would assume by that stage in life, sorry, my fan is on because my room is hot. You would assume at that point in life that they have their life together and everything, but Teddy is very much still trying to figure everything out. Not in the same way that, like, me as a new adult or people in their early 20s are trying to figure everything out, but in a way where you can only really get perspective about things after the fact, and Teddy still needed to get perspective. So I do think that this book was a really fun time, and I really appreciated some of the themes and the overall message of the story. Sadly, I am only giving it a 3.5 for my personal experience of reading it, because while I did have a really fun time, and I'd like to emphasize that, like, a 3-star rating, in my opinion and how I rank books, a 3-star book is not a bad rating from me. A 3-star is, this book was good, I enjoyed it, it just didn't stand out to me from some of the other things that I've read. And this book did stand out to me with its protagonist choice and its themes. It's just that some of the plotting of it and the craft execution of the writing wasn't quite for me. The story is written as Teddy recounting the events of the novel from some future point in time. So we are getting thoughts and anecdotes from the, like, present him about the events that are, to the reader, currently happening. And that just kind of took me out of the experience a little bit. I think it would have been worse if I was reading the physical book, but because I have an audiobook version of it, I didn't experience the, like, jarring switch between here's the present situation, here's what I'm thinking about that situation after the fact, because I felt a bit more like it was Teddy telling the story to me with the audio narrator. But it was still a little bit jarring and took me out of the experience of it. And then the only other real issue that I took with it, but plotting and themes are like something that I think are really important to books. If I think that there is a theme that the author is trying to get across and not just a story that they want to tell, if I think that there is kind of like a deeper message that they want to convey, I look more deeply into how they structure their story around that. And there was a point where Teddy and another character in this are set up to be character foils to each other. And while I did see the points that were being made and agree that they function as foils to each other, I think that the execution of them being foils to each other could have been better done, better laid out, the groundwork, because there is a point in the novel where the narration just straight up tells you, yes, this character's a foil to me. And I'm like, ideally, you don't want to have to just straight up say that these characters are foils for each other. I think one of the best writing and storytelling advice that I've ever gotten was, don't spell things out for the reader. They're not stupid. And I don't feel like the book was trying to say I was stupid. I just think that they felt the need to point out that these characters were foils of each other because it wasn't sufficiently developed in the earlier parts of the book. I still had a really fun time reading this. Teddy was a very entertaining narrator, and I think the overall world building and idea behind Teddy and the dragon bonds and the like contracts and pacts and how that affects Zinnia and Jack was really cool. So there were a lot of elements of this book that I did really enjoy, and I will be getting the sequel when it comes out, because I think that these things that I've noted are things that can be improved upon, and which I really hope that the author can improve upon as they continue writing, because I think this might be their debut. Let me check that. Okay, yes, this is their debut. So I think that these things that I'm noting are qualities of the story that can be improved upon as this author continues to learn and hone their craft. So I am interested to see where they go from here, and I will be getting the second book in this series because I am interested in this world and Teddy and the story that is being told. And that is my review for my ARC copy of An Accident of Dragons by Cheri Radke. This is going to be the last book that I read in this vlog, obviously, because as you can see, the video is coming to an end, and also because it's Tuesday night, and that is when I always end my vlogs. But I do have another arc that I need to be reading, so I will be reading that before I continue reading Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. But I will hold off on telling you what this arc is until my next vlog. I will see you guys next week.